Now, first off, let's chat real quickly about where we left off when I saw you guys yesterday, because yesterday I got a chance to go over very briefly, really the start of what happens in Cuba, because Cuba's going to pose a bit of a difficult problem for us, namely because it's simply so close to the American shore. Cuba being 90 miles off the American coast puts communism right at our doorstep. Now, I do want to ask you, because what we've seen thus far is containment has worked, sort of, because we have communism contained really around the Soviet Union. Now, kind of think back. Do you remember? Communism has expanded outside of the Soviet Union. Where does it go first?
Europe.
Goes to Eastern Europe. Where does it go after that?
China.
Goes to China. What about after that?
North Korea.
North Korea. But at least there we have it contained. So now we've got this new problem where communism has now expanded to the Western Hemisphere. We got to do something about this. Now, keep something else in mind. We're going to have a brand new president that inherits this problem. Our brand new president is going to be the youngest president we've ever had, and he looks at the world a bit differently than his predecessors. Now, I say that because he's the next generation of Cold Warriors. He's going to have to take this problem and kind of address it in a certain way where he needs to look like he's strong against communism, and he's going to have to do something to try to fix this Cuba problem. Now, remind me, I believe when I saw you guys last time, we ended right here. Is that right?
Yes.
Next one? Okay. Now, just to kind of back up, Cuba's going to go through their own revolution because there's going to be really a dictator in charge. But this dictator, Bautista, has kind of learned how to play this Cold War game of you're either with us or against us. Now, Bautista is, very seriously, a hardened anti-communist. Does that make him our friend?
Yes.
To a certain extent, yeah. So what are we going to do to help him?
Give him money.
We give him a lot of money. And he takes it and pockets it. So then he comes back again and says, well, I just need more money. These communists keep springing up. Takes the money, pockets it. Now, it's him doing this that almost paves the way for Castro and the communists. Castro and his supporters are going to overthrow Batista and all but immediately establish their own communist party. Now, I want to just kind of ask, is this great news for the Soviet Union?
Yeah.
But why?
It's in the Western Hemisphere.
It's in the Western Hemisphere. Suggest something
It's
else?
close to the U.S. so that if they wanted to, they could station troops.
Okay, it's close to the U.S., so it gives them this island 90 miles up the coast. Sure. Let me kind of say this too. Does this make us look bad?
Yes.
We're
We
that
can't even
ally.
control the Western Hemisphere. This idea is spreading. All but immediately, Castro reaches out to the Soviet Union and says, I'm going to be in your sphere of influence. I need aid. I need help from you. What is Castro basically asking for here?
Money.
He wants cash as well. The Soviet Union will give him cash. Lots of it. And Castro's going to be grateful, but at the same time, there's going to be this kind of weird rift between Castro and the Soviet Union. Castro kind of thinks that he should be really a major player in the world. And the Soviet Union probably doesn't think of him as such. They really kind of think of Castro as sort of a little brother. But at the same time, Castro is very vocal about how much he hates the United States, about how he sees the Americans as imperialists, as installing this dictator Batista. When the more and more he says this, the more and more of a problem he becomes. And there are people in Washington, D.C. that start thinking, Castro's stirring up a lot of problems.
Let's silence solve it.
Let's fix the problem. So I'll go ahead and ask, how do we fix the problem?
Kill him. Well, we're the United States. We don't kill him.
That's very true. However, President Kennedy has this problem. what to do about Castro and communist Cuba. He sits down with some of his advisors, and some of the advisors say, you know what, Cuba's not even really that big of a deal. You can let this slide. Does that sound like we're really adhering to containment if we just let this one slide?
No.
No. Kennedy can't have that. He needs to look strong against communism. So he needs a different plan. There are some people that say, you know what we could do? Let's just invade Cuba and overthrow it. It's not like Cuba can fight against the United States. It's not going to happen. But if we do that, what might happen?
They might attack us.
Cuba?
No,
But the Soviet Union might. So maybe if we invade Cuba, we start World War III. There's got to be another option. What some of Kennedy's advisors start saying is, look, if you don't like those options, let's take a different one. Let's simply remove Castro from power. But we can't do it with a full-on assault. We gotta make it look like the Cuban people are doing this. We gotta make it look like there's an uprising. That way, we get rid of Castro, we can help these rebels, we solve a lot of problems. And lo and behold, we have in the United States literally thousands and thousands of Cuban refugees. People who left Cuba as the communists were taking power, sometimes in very dangerous ways, taking homemade rafts across the Gulf of Mexico into Florida. I know this because, I kid you not, this is all true what I'm about to tell you. The woman who lives across the street from me is this sweet old lady. She's like 85 years old. And she like bakes cookies, everything, like she's Nana, okay? I was talking to her, and her name is Helen. And we were talking about, actually she asked me, she goes, what are you doing in class right now? I said, funny enough, we're doing the Cuban Revolution. This was a few years ago. And she goes, really? That's so interesting. I'm like, yeah, this is a good one, Helen. She goes, I was in that. I'm like, you've lost your mind, Helen. No, you weren't. She goes, I was there when the communists took over. Go on. No, like you read it in a book, like you're losing your mind. It's okay, Helen, don't worry about it. Some people in coats are gonna come by and take you away, it'll be all right. I didn't say that to her. I said it in my mind. But she goes, no, look, I've got a book. I'm like, okay. So she pulls out this book, and there's a picture of her and her dad in this book as the communists came to their family farm with AK-47s and told her dad, you can either give us the farm or we can kill you and take it. It was the perfect example of communism. So they gave him the family farm and fled to the United States. So I said, Helen, this is crazy this is happening right now. You gotta come in and tell my kids your story. And she goes, no. I'm like, why? Like, why are you trying to tell the story? She goes, I'm afraid of teenagers. I'm like, Helen, you stood down the communists and you're afraid of teenagers? She's like, yes. I'm like, Helen, I will be certain that Anderson will not be there that day. That's right. I knew you before. I mean,
5 years ago.
Yeah. Coming back to this little story, we got to figure out a way to make it look like the Cubans are rising up against Castro. But if we're going to do that, we got to make it very secretive. So if you need a secret job done, you call the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. The CIA comes up with a plan. And the plan is there's a lot of moving pieces to it. But if you kind of just look at it at face value, it's a pretty good idea. What the CIA comes up with is they're going to take these Cuban refugees in the United States who honestly hate Castro, who want an uprising. The CIA trains them. They're going to give them weapons training, and they prepare them for an amphibious invasion. Now, it's going to go a few different ways. The plan gets really complex the more it goes. They're going to take these Cuban refugees, fly them out of Florida, land in Guatemala, cross through Honduras, go to Nicaragua. And the plan is from here, the amphibious landing comes from Nicaragua. Now, I just want to ask you guys, why do they make it so complex? Why are they landing in Guatemala, getting to Nicaragua, and launching from there? What do you think, Alan? What do you think?
So they don't expect it? Like if they saw a ship coming straight from the US, they'd probably think something was up.
It would be pretty much direct. You could connect the dots real fast. If you see it coming from Nicaragua, though, is it at least kind of hidden?
It's like, wait a second, why are they in there?
Nicaragua, exactly. You gotta cover your tracks. What the plan is gonna be is we will land thousands of Cuban refugees at what's called the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, right in here. Now the plan is, we're gonna send these thousands of Cuban refugees, and they're gonna be the spark that starts this much wider Cuban uprising. Now, there are going to be 1,400 of these Cuban refugees trained and ready to go. But all but immediately, the problems start to arise. As they start their landing, they're going to find themselves in a lot of trouble because as these landing craft approach the Bay of Pigs, the people who organized this, the CIA, didn't realize that there was a coral reef right off the coast. We're gonna see a number of these landing crafts crash on the coral reef, and we're gonna have a handful of them drown before they even get to Cuba. Now, it's not a complete disaster, but it hasn't gone well. Also, we're gonna drop paratroopers into Cuba to help these refugees. The paratroopers are way off course. They never meet up with these refugees.
We're banned 1,000.
Things are not going well. They're about to get worse. The landing craft that do make it are going to storm this beach. But on that beach is a radio station. Like, think of just like a normal, like, FM station has an office right on that beach. So here's the DJ, literally putting on the records. And then all of a sudden, about 1,200 heavily armed people walk up on his beach. He's on the radio literally saying, I think we're being invaded. Let me just tell everyone what's going on right here. So the element of surprise is immediately gone. What we're gonna see is Castro organizes the resistance real fast and real easily. They have way more numbers than these 1,400 trained refugees. This invasion is an absolute disaster. Out of those 1,400 refugees that are going to try to reclaim Cuba, about 1,000 of them are captured, and a little over 100 are going to be killed. That means we have about 200 of them even escape. It's a disaster. Within 24 hours, the invasion is just repelled. Now, I was telling you guys before about how the Soviets like to get information out of people. Yeah, the Cubans are the same. Out of those people they captured, it's pretty easy to get the information out of them and say, who's responsible for this? Who are you answering to? And all of these Cuban refugees that were captured simply said, it was the United States that did this. They're the ones who organized this. Now I'll go ahead and ask. Bad for us?
Yes.
Of course. But why? It's bad on so many levels. What's one reason why this is so bad? What do you think?
It shows that we are trying to expand. It could look like we're trying to expand our borders.
Maybe we're trying to take Cuba. Yeah, that's bad. Do you think the Soviets